You would have to be a true cult follower to really, while he was alive, to understand, Yams.
A$AP Rocky is facing the fight of his life, one that could change everything. The rapper, born Rakim Mayers, is now at the center of a high-stakes legal battle that has the entire industry watching. A courtroom showdown in Los Angeles is underway, and at stake is not just his career, but his very freedom. Rocky is accused of a crime that could put him behind bars for decades, a felony assault charge stemming from a 2021 altercation with his former friend A$AP Rocky. Prosecutors claim he recklessly fired a gun at Rocky outside a Hollywood hotel, escalating what seemed like a personal dispute into a serious criminal case. But here's where things take a twist. Rocky's defense team insists there's no real crime here at all. They argue that not only was the gun real, but that Rocky was actually acting in self-defense. And in a move that shocked many, he rejected a plea deal that would have landed him 180 days in jail, choosing instead to risk it all in court. If the jury doesn't buy his story, he could be looking at 24 years behind bars. With both sides gearing up for a legal war, one question looms. Did A$AP Rocky pull the trigger, or is he being unfairly targeted? The trial is packed with explosive claims, high-profile witnesses, and a verdict that could send shockwaves through the music industry. The stakes in A$AP Rocky's trial were already sky-high, but the selection of the jury has only added more controversy. With Rocky facing serious felony charges, his legal team was quick to scrutinize every potential juror, searching for any signs of bias that could sway the outcome. And one fact stood out immediately. Not a single juror is African American. This raised concerns among Rocky's defense attorneys, who argue that a jury lacking representation from his own community could be problematic. Could implicit biases come into play? Would the jury truly be able to judge him fairly? These questions have fueled discussions both inside and outside the courtroom, with some critics suggesting that the system is already stacked against him. But perhaps the biggest wildcard in this trial isn't a juror. It's Rihanna. The global superstar and Rocky's longtime partner has been a constant presence in the courtroom, sitting front and center as the legal battle unfolds. Her unwavering support has sparked intense debate. Could her mere presence influence the jury's decision? At least one juror has already admitted that Rihanna being in the room might affect their perception of the case. That revelation has only fueled speculation that her attendance is more than just a show of solidarity. It could be a deliberate strategy by Rocky's defense.
You're always in the press and stuff like that. It gets at whatever's left of you, whatever's real.
Yeah.
And I feel like most people feel like, you got to change. You got to kind of like, it's like fame and money. I say it all the time. It doesn't really change you, and it changes the people around you.
Having one of the most powerful women in the world silently backing him could send a strong message to the jury. If Rihanna believes in his innocence, shouldn't they? As the trial moves forward, the question remains. Will the jury focus solely on the evidence, or will the presence of an A-list celebrity subtly tip the scales? The heart of this case lies in what really happened that night in 2021 outside a Hollywood hotel. The prosecution paints a damning picture. A$AP Rocky, in the heat of an argument with his former friend A$AP Rocky, allegedly pulled out a semi-automatic firearm and fired a shot, grazing Rocky's left hand. According to prosecutors, what started as a verbal dispute quickly escalated. Witnesses claim Rocky was agitated, and at some point, he allegedly reached and fired at least one round. Surveillance footage from the scene captures a chaotic scuffle between the two men, but the crucial moment, the actual fire, is missing. This lack of clear video evidence has become a central issue in the trial. To support their case, prosecutors have pointed to key physical evidence, shell casings that were allegedly recovered from the scene. But this is where things get murky. The casings weren't initially collected by law enforcement. Instead, they were handed over by Rocky himself at a later date. This raised serious chain of custody concerns. Could the evidence have been tampered with? A ballistics report further complicates things. Experts suggest that the casings could have come from a Glock 43, a firearm model that Rocky has previously owned. While no gun was ever recovered from Rocky, prosecutors argue that this potential link is enough to raise suspicion. But the defense has a completely different version of events. According to Rocky's lawyers, the firearm in question wasn't even real. They claim it was a prop used for a music video, making the entire case against him a fabrication. They argue that the shell casings Rocky provided were conveniently found later, implying that they could have been planted to frame Rocky. Adding to the defense's argument is a major hole in the prosecution's case. No firearm matching the casings was ever recovered. Law enforcement did search Rocky's home and found legally registered weapons, but none matched the ballistics evidence. Just when it seemed like the trial might lean in Rocky's favor, prosecutors dropped a bombshell, a new ballistics report that potentially links the rapper to the bullets fired that night. This revelation could prove to be a major turning point, putting Rocky's defense on the back foot as the trial moves forward. With conflicting stories, missing footage, and questions about evidence tampering, the jury will have to decide. Is this a case of self-defense, a setup, or did A$AP Rocky actually pull the trigger? A$AP Relly's testimony was emotional, intense, and filled with accusations.
I never enjoyed the music business.
I heard that.
The politics, man, it's like, for me, man, everything that ever worked for me was unorthodox. They follow a certain formula, which is traditional, and, you know, not knocking it. I just don't think that formula applies to this, man.
Taking the stand against his former friend, Relly painted a picture of a bitter fallout, one that, according to him, ended with a shot and a near miss that could have cost him his life. Relly detailed how his relationship with Rocky had deteriorated, claiming that what was once brotherhood within the A$AP collective had turned into hostility. On the night of the alleged shooting, he says things reached a breaking point. According to his testimony, Rocky grabbed him first, escalating a verbal argument into a physical altercation. And then came the most shocking part. Rocky allegedly pulled out a fired. Relly told the court that in the heat of the moment, he felt a sharp burning sensation in his left hand. It wasn't until he looked down that he realized he had been grazed by a shaken and afraid, he says he immediately picked up the shell casings, not just as evidence, but because he feared that Rocky's entourage would destroy them to cover up the incident. But while Relly's testimony was dramatic, the defense wasted no time in tearing it apart. Rocky's legal team fired back, pointing out major inconsistencies in his statements. If Rocky really fired a gun, where was it? Despite an extensive investigation, no firearm was ever recovered, a fact that casts doubt on the prosecution's claims. Then there's the surveillance footage. While it does show a heated argument, the actual shooting is not visible. Without clear visual proof, Rocky's defense argued that Relly's version of events is nothing more than his word, and a word that has changed multiple times. Perhaps the most damaging counterpoint from Rocky's lawyers was the issue of the shell casings. They questioned why Relly, rather than the police, was the one who handed them over. Could he have planted or tampered with them? The defense suggested that without an actual Relly's evidence is circumstantial at best. With Relly's credibility now under scrutiny, the trial has reached a pivotal moment. Is his testimony a genuine account of a near-tragic shooting, or is this a calculated move to take down A$AP Rocky? As the cross-examination continues, the jury will have to decide. Is Relly telling the truth, or is there more to the story? A$AP Rocky wasn't just fighting for his reputation. He was betting on his freedom. When prosecutors offered him a plea deal that included 180 days in jail, a suspended 7-year sentence, and 3 years of probation, he flat out refused. It was a bold move, one that sent a clear message. He believes he's innocent and is willing to risk it all to prove it. Legal analysts have been split on whether this was a brilliant act of defiance or a reckless gamble. Some argue that if Rocky truly didn't fire that night, then accepting any deal, even a lenient one, would be an admission of guilt. One expert put it plainly: if you're innocent.
Are you still happy with the so-called music business?
Yeah, you know, it has its ups and downs,
Yeah.
man. It changes. You know, for me, man, I have a cult following, so
Yeah, man.
I don't really have to contribute to, like, you know, do things to stay relevant and hot, man. I'm fortunate enough to be one of those individuals. Like I said earlier, probably like a Andre, somebody, a Frank Ocean, a Tyler is just a creative to where you just do what you do, and when I'm doing is I'm compassionate about it.
Why take a deal at all? But others see it differently. Rejecting a plea deal is always a risk, especially in a case like this. With 24 years on the table if convicted, some believe Rocky may have underestimated the dangers of going to trial. Another legal analyst summed it up: 180 days is nothing compared to 24 years. He's taking a massive gamble. The prosecution likely offered the deal because they weren't 100% confident in securing a conviction, but now that Rocky has refused, they're going all in to make their case airtight. By rejecting the deal, Rocky has left his fate in the hands of a jury, which is always a wild card. Was this the right move? If the jury believes his defense, Rocky could walk away a free man with his name cleared. But if things go south, he could be facing a devastating sentence, one that could end his career for good. As the trial unfolds, one question lingers. Did A$AP Rocky make the ultimate power move, or will this decision come back to haunt him? A$AP Rocky's legal battle is already high stakes, but one detail has sent shockwaves through the industry. If convicted, he could end up in the same prison as Diddy. The Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn is not just any facility. It's one of the most notorious federal lockups in the country. MDC has gained a horrifying reputation over the years. It's a place where violence is a daily reality. Just recently, members of MS-13 brutalized 44 times inside the prison walls. The facility is also plagued by medical neglect, something that became national news when Diddy was rushed to the hospital for an MRI, sparking rumors of a possible prison fight. And then, there's the darkest side of MDC, the inhumane conditions. In just the past 3 years, 4 inmates have died, a grim statistic that underscores the prison's brutal environment. If Rocky ends up there, he won't just be serving time. He'll be surviving. The eerie connection between Rocky's case and Diddy's downfall has become a topic of intense discussion. Once a near-billionaire music mogul, Diddy is now facing federal charges ranging from... His rapid fall from grace has become a cautionary tale, a warning of how quickly things can unravel in the world of hip-hop and celebrity power. The symbolism of both artists, potentially sharing the same prison walls, has rattled the industry. It raises deeper questions. Is this just a coincidence, or does it reflect something bigger about race, justice, and the power dynamics in entertainment? As Rocky continues to fight for his freedom, the stakes have never been higher.
You know, the whole fighting, the situation with, you know, the Brooklyn cats and us Harlem cats, you know, what happened. And I think everybody squared it out like men. And
did you square it out there that night?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I think...
that's unusual.
Yeah. Because it's everybody's on a common mutual ground. And it's like, we doing it for yams, bro. His moms is there. It's kids there. People ain't come for that. People really want to see his show and celebrate somebody.
His fate is still undecided. But one thing is clear, if he loses this battle, he could be walking the same prison halls as Diddy, facing a reality no one could have predicted. A$AP Rocky's trial isn't just about one man's fate. It has ignited a much larger conversation about race, justice, and the criminalization of hip-hop artists. With the potential of a 24-year sentence hanging over his head, many are asking, is this about justice? Or is it about making an example out of a successful black artist? One commentator put it bluntly, no other race is affected like this when it comes to hip-hop has an epidemic, and the music industry bears responsibility. The connection between hip-hop and the criminal justice system has long been a point of contention. While some believe that rappers are unfairly targeted, others argue that celebrity status should not grant immunity. Diddy's downfall is often cited as proof, a billionaire mogul now facing federal charges, proving that fame doesn't mean untouchable. But Rocky's case is different. Unlike Diddy, he refused a plea deal and is actively challenging the system. His decision to fight the charges head-on isn't just about proving his innocence. It's about defying a justice system that many believe disproportionately punishes black men. For Rocky, this trial is about more than just avoiding prison. It's about pushing back against a narrative that has plagued hip-hop for decades. With each court appearance, he's making a statement. Black artists won't go down without a fight. Whether the jury sees him as a reckless or a wrongfully accused artist remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the outcome of this case will send ripples through the music industry and beyond. With the trial still unfolding, the next few days could determine A$AP Rocky's future. His defense team is working relentlessly to discredit A$AP Rocky, painting him as an unreliable witness whose testimony is riddled with inconsistencies. Meanwhile, this report remains a major wild card. If prosecutors successfully link Rocky to the shell casings, it could be a devastating blow to the defense. Then there's the jury itself. With Rihanna sitting in the courtroom, the question remains, will her presence influence their decision? While the judge has instructed jurors to focus only on the evidence, Human nature is unpredictable, and having a global icon silently supporting Rocky could have a subconscious impact. Public opinion is also playing a role. This case has attracted massive media attention, and some legal analysts speculate that outside pressure could subtly affect the court's handling of the trial.
You would have to be a true cult follower to really, while he was alive, to understand, Yams, Lil Newport, but I think now that he's gone, it's like one of those things. It's like awareness, and it's just spreading, and his importance in hip hop and how his contribution to hip hop, people are starting to see his influence, and it's not just A$AP Rocky. Like,
if the jury senses that a conviction would spark outrage, could that sway their decision? As the trial reaches its final phase, there are 3 possible outcomes. Acquittal. If the jury finds reasonable doubt, Rocky walks free, clearing his name and reclaiming his career. His rejection of the plea deal would be seen as a calculated risk that paid off. Conviction with a reduced sentence. The jury could convict Rocky on lesser charges, leading to a shorter prison term instead of the full 24 years. This would be a middle ground, acknowledging wrongdoing but avoiding the harshest possible punishment. Full conviction. If Rocky is found guilty of felony assault with a firearm, he could be sentenced to up to 24 years in prison. This would be the worst-case scenario, not only ending his music career but also permanently altering his life. At this point, everything hangs in the balance. The final verdict will not only decide Rocky's fate but also shape the ongoing debate about race, celebrity justice, and the hip-hop industry's fraught relationship with the legal system. As the trial nears its conclusion, one question remains. Will A$AP Rocky walk out of court a free man, or will this case become one of the biggest falls from grace in hip-hop history? A$AP Rocky's case is more than just a legal battle. It's a moment of reckoning for celebrity culture, hip-hop, and the justice system. The trial has exposed the high stakes of fame, race, and power in the courtroom, leaving the world watching to see how justice will be served. There are key takeaways that will shape not only Rocky's future, but also the broader conversation around the legal system and its treatment of Black artists. Rocky's decision to reject a plea deal was a high-risk move, one that could clear his name or cost him decades behind bars. The lack of solid evidence introduces reasonable doubt, making this case anything but straightforward. His potential incarceration alongside Diddy is a shocking and ironic twist, 2 of hip-hop's biggest names possibly facing the same grim reality. Rihanna's presence in the courtroom is more than emotional support. It could be a strategic play that influences the jury's perception. The outcome of this trial could set a precedent for how the justice system handles high-profile Black artists moving forward. With each passing day in court, the stakes continue to rise. Will A$AP Rocky's fight for freedom rewrite the narrative of celebrity justice, or will this case become another cautionary tale of power, fame, and the unforgiving reality of the legal system? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Is Rocky being unfairly targeted, or is this justice being served? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the latest updates on this explosive trial and more breaking celebrity news. Stay tuned. We'll be following this case until the final verdict drops.